Step Up Savannah was established in 2008 as the city's poverty reduction initiative. We act as an advocate and convener, collaborate and a capacity builder to build a community where economic inclusion is the norm. Because we believe our community is one where all have hope and opportunity, where we challenge injustice, and where we step up to create a more economically inclusive community. Step Up Savannah has several direct service programs, as you see on the screen here. We have the AmeriCorps Vista. We have a workforce development program called Chatham Apprentice Program. We lead the Neighborhood Leadership Academy. We have a workforce or a working family network comprised of all the social safety net providers. We have our public benefits program, and then we have a Level Up financial literacy program. And you can check us out on our website and our YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, so that you can learn some more and also sign up for the different programs. I would like to preface this conversation today by discussing asset poverty. Asset poverty is much different than income poverty or utilizing the federal poverty limits. So asset poverty takes into consideration all assets, which includes non-cash benefits such as SNAP, child care subsidies, and Medicaid, as defined by a household's inability to provide for their basic needs for a period of 3 months. Here in this graph, we can see that the asset poverty rate is much higher than the income poverty rate. And in households of color, it is over double. Black populations are the most affected by asset poverty. Further, it's worth noting that if a family's total income is less than the family's threshold expense, then that family and every individual in it is considered in poverty. The traditional poverty definition uses money income before taxes and does not include capital gains or non-cash benefits, such as public housing, Medicaid, and food stamps. So we know that one way to limit asset poverty and to promote economic growth and prosperity is to encourage small business and entrepreneurship, which is why we are here today. Also, I want to point out this slide here that shows the children the trajectory of children in poverty in some of our low wealth communities. This slide shows children's projected income if they grow up in these communities, and they are projected to receive between $12,000 and $23,000 by the time they are 35, which we know is well below the poverty wage and the median income. The good news, though, is that through wealth building programs such as Level Up and some of the other Step Up programs, as well as learning about solutions such as entrepreneurship, we can take strides to end generational poverty. Here, just going back to the economic disparities in Savannah, we know that the average African American in Savannah is 26. The poverty rate for that person is 26.1% as compared to their white counterparts at 7.2%. Moreover, the labor market engagement and jobs proximity index indicate that African Americans in Savannah are least successful in accessing employment. On average, they live in neighborhoods with a 10-point gap in job proximity and a 17-point gap in the labor market engagement as compared to their white counterparts. And so this is very important to know because we know also that these are the neighborhoods that are heavily impacted by poverty. And because they're so far from those job markets, it's important to know about how we might be able to grow a home-based business. And so that's our conversation today, so that the business can be right there in their home. So that's encouraging. Before we jump into our session today and our speaker, I do want to mention our Level Up program, which is our asset-based financial literacy program. And it's focused on helping people make firm steps to interrupt the cycle of poverty. It's personalized, and the individuals become investigators into their own life and build out a resource plan that helps them in their economic mobility, their asset building, and provides a more prosperous life for themselves, their families, and their communities. And so they learn different avenues on how to do that, different resources. We help connect them and give them warm transfers to those resources. And so it's a great program. If you would like to learn more, please visit stepup.savannah.org and check out the Level Up page. And you can actually sign up for a class as well. So this brings us to our topic for today, which is success at home, creating and thriving a home-based business. It is my pleasure to introduce today's subject matter expert, Carl Biethro, who has 30 years of entrepreneurial experience and 42 years of business experience and 12 years of teaching experience. So welcome, Carl, and you can take it away.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm coming to you from the Savannah Entrepreneurial Center. And here at the Entrepreneurial Center, we have a wide range of business classes available to you either in person here in our classroom or on Zoom channels. And all of these programs are available. If you look at the City of Savannah website and the calendar, you can register for those programs and join us in whatever manner is convenient to you. And you'll find a wide range of business education programs there. Next. My name is Carl Biethro. I'm the Business Development Coordinator in the Economic Development Department. My email address is there. It's cbiethro@savannahga.gov. And I'll give it to you again at the end of this program, but I would encourage anyone who has a business question to send me an email and I will answer your questions. The big question for yourself is, can I start my own business? And it's a good question, and it's one that you need to reflect on as you look at the possibilities. First of all, you need to think about any particular skill sets or talent that you might have that you can use to start your business with. So can I do this? We all have different skill sets and have different talents. And if we can convert those to some sort of a business opportunity, it's a good start. On a practical side, we also need to look at our property restrictions, where we live. If you're going to do a home-based business, is it allowed to do that kind of business in your home? And of course, there are many businesses you can do from your home, whether you're a renter or whether you own the property. But you need to think about that. You can't violate any local restrictions or housing covenants that you might have. But there are many businesses that you can actually start from your home as long as you really aren't disturbing the property and disturbing the neighbors and that sort of thing. Another thing to consider is the space that's available. When you're going to run a business from your home, you need to set aside some sort of space that has a business appearance or has the feel of being in business, place where you can keep your supplies, keep your records, keep your computer if you're using a computer, place you call your own for your business that doesn't get confused with other household things. A lot of people starting business from home need to consider the cooperation of family and friends. If you're serious about running a business from your home and there are other people in the household, they need to understand that you're running a business and this is serious and that they can't interfere with what you're doing or interrupt you in the middle of something, particularly if you're online or working on something and you're trying to get it done. You need to get that cooperation. They may not always understand, but you need to have them understand that this is something that you're doing for their benefit and your benefit, and you need to get it done. So you need some cooperation around the household. You also need to think about the times you're doing this. And perhaps you have a full-time employment or a part-time employment. So you're going to have to work around that. And it may be the evenings and the weekends that you work on it. There are a lot of things that we can do in our spare time, evenings and weekends, but I always say, remember, you've basically got 3 8-hour shifts in a day. There's 24 hours in a day, and some of that obviously you're going to spend sleeping. Some of it you'll spend with your family or other people in the household. But you need to dedicate some time and be disciplined about dedicating that time to working on your business enterprise. And then you need to acquire a few business skills. How do you run a business? How do you start a business? What do you do to get it started? We have all those courses here at the Entrepreneurial Center. Every Friday morning at 9:30, I present a little course on how to start a business. You're welcome to tune into that course. We go through the steps you have to take to start your business. Every business has certain requirements. And regardless of the kind of business you want to start, first of all, you have to sell something. You have to sell a product, you have to sell a service. And that's where you need to think about your skill sets and your talents and what it is you're going to do, what you're going to make, what you're going to provide to sell to somebody, to a customer, obviously. And you're the primary salesperson, and you have to think about selling something. And it's sometimes difficult for us to reach out and tell somebody about what we're doing and why they ought to buy from us, but you need to overcome that hesitancy and just sort of build some confidence that you can sell this product or this service to other people. Now, in some cases, you may be a manufacturer. We have a lot of home-based businesses that have started in the candle making business or the soap making business. I have one group, one pair of ladies who are doing a cosmetics manufacturing. They started in their kitchen, in their dining room, and they produce a wonderful line of cosmetics. There are other things that you can do in limited space in your home too. You might be a wholesaler. Perhaps you have contacts with manufacturers and you're going to sell their products as a wholesaler, and you go out and call on retailers and sell the products to the retailers. Most people start out as a retailer or a service provider. A retailer buys a product at wholesale and marks up the price and sells it to someone else. Service providers provide specific services, and there are a few services that you can provide from your home and charge money for those things and make a profit. We think about businesses being home versus and virtual versus brick and mortar. Home-based businesses are often virtual businesses. People may not know that we're working from our home. Perhaps we're offering products on the internet through various marketing arms. There are a lot of good businesses that start very simply in e-commerce, and they make fairly nice returns on their efforts. Brick and mortar businesses is having your own retail place or business place, and that gets fairly expensive and often impossible and unreachable if your financial resources are limited. So that's why we talk about home-based businesses as virtual businesses, and they can be whatever you want to build. And then finally, you need to test the market before you invest in this business. You invest both time and money. You need to be sure that what it is you're going to sell is something that people will pay for. If people aren't willing to pay what it is you're trying to make on this product or service, it's not worth investing time in. Okay. Here's a few basic steps on how to start a business. And these are just some basic steps. You'll have to think about these and please come to some of our classes to see how we flesh these out. First of all, you have to organize your resources. What is it you need in terms of physical assets to run your business? Do you need a computer? A lot of good businesses require computers. Do you need, excuse me, you obviously need space to set up your business and to run your business from. It may be the dining room table. You also need to research your business prospects. What is the market that you're going to be selling to? Are there enough people out there who are going to buy your products or buy your services to make it worthwhile? This is Savannah is a beautiful city. It has about 150,000 people in it. Is that a large enough market for you to sell your services and products? Or do you need to expand and go beyond that? You need to get educated about business, and I'm sort of repeating myself here, but again, do come to some of our classes on that. You need to think about becoming a legal entity, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about, excuse me, the types of business entities you can be, but you need to establish some sort of business identity. You also need to open a separate checking account for your business, and then setting up that place for work and keeping records. There's some budgets I'm going to talk about that you need to consider doing before you get started. And I often recommend that you write a business plan to define your business and to project how you're going to make it work. And then I often recommend that businesses buy some general business liability insurance. It protects you from those people who might want to sue you. There's a number of places that you can get help, and obviously the Savannah Entrepreneurial Center is one of them, and we highly recommend that you look at what we have to offer and take advantage of it. It's all free. We do an excellent job of providing technical assistance, in providing educational programs, and we encourage you to look at what we have. If you're looking for money to borrow, we partner with the Small Business Assistance Corporation here in Savannah, and they have a number of different loans available for starting and growing your business. Another education source is the Small Business Development Center. They're an extension of the University of Georgia, and they do an excellent job of helping people get started. If you're looking for mentors, someone to work with you on a regular basis and someone you can talk with on a regular basis and has some expertise in what you're trying to start, we partner with SCORE, and they are here in Savannah. They have an excellent chapter with lots of very bright, intelligent, well-versed business people who will provide free advice and direction for you. If you're looking for purely educational things in terms of providing services or whatnot, Savannah Technical College is an excellent place. And if you want to do some research on what you're going to do, the Live Oak Public Library Southwest branch, which is out at the Savannah Mall area, is really our business library here. And the librarian there can help you find information that you might be looking for. The core of every successful business is the numbers. It's always about the numbers. And that is, what is it going to cost to start our business? And these are some budgets that I think you ought to sit down and just write out what it is that what you're going to need to start your business. Make a list and put some numbers by it, do some research, find out what it's going to cost to do this. Because this is money that you're going to have to spend before you really get started. Hopefully it's not a great deal, particularly for a home-based business. You've obviously got location covered and some other things like that. But maybe you need to have a better internet connection. Maybe you need to have certain supplies to make the things that you're going to make. There's some expenses involved there that you need to know what they are, and you need to add them up. You also need to think about what it's going to cost to operate this business on a month-to-month basis. If you start an internet sales site, it's going to have certain expenses attached to it. Your insurance might have a monthly premium attached to it. Maybe your bank account will have an expense attached to it, but there are monthly services and expenses that you're going to have. And if you can't meet those expenses, you can't stay in business. You also need to think very carefully about how you're going to price your products and services. The price that you're going to charge needs to cover certain items, and it needs to provide you with a profit. So you need to think about that. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. You also need to think about your sales volume. How much will you sell in the first month, in the second month, in the third month, and so on? And hopefully the sales by month grow. And at some point in time, in the first several months, your sales will exceed your operating expenses. Next. Here's a short list of startup expenses. Cost of organizing. If you want to set up an LLC, for instance, it's going to cost some money. Perhaps you need to take a course in something to be certified and to get some training. That would have some expense to it. If you're going to need a space for a quantity of inventory or other supplies, you may have to rent some space, perhaps from a storage unit or something like that, because you don't have space in your home to accommodate all that. You don't want your living room turning into an Amazon warehouse, so you might have to rent some space. So think about that. Any equipment that is required, if you're trying to produce something, you may need a little bit of equipment to do it, to package it, and to be able to ship it out and whatnot. If you're going to be online, is your computer strong enough to handle a website and to work in online business? So you might need some new equipment there. If you are going to resell products, you are going to have some materials, supplies, or inventory. And how much do you need to have on hand in order to either produce something or to ship out whatever it is you're selling? You also need to think about any advertising and promotion that you're going to do. Some websites you can start for free, and others have monthly expenses attached to them. As you build a website, if you're doing an online shopping website, it does increase the cost, and your promotion of that increases some cost. And then you need to think about some reserves that you have on hand to cover your expenses, because there's going to be ups and downs in the market. And then I always throw in the expense of other and miscellaneous, because you just never know what's going to come up, and you may need something in order to get yourself started. Your operating expenses are just normal and necessary expenses that you have on a monthly basis. I often suggest that you get general business liability insurance. The cost of that varies depending on the kind of business that you're starting. And it's sort of a protection from those who might sue you because they're damaged by or injured because of the product or service that you provide. You might have some shipping and postage expenses, both in and out. Perhaps you have to ship things to people, or perhaps you're going to receive things from suppliers and you'll have to pay the shipping on it. We always have general office supplies expenses, and it may not be very great, but it's an expense that you're going to have. As I mentioned a minute ago, websites can be started for free in many cases, but then they begin to develop expenses, monthly expenses, as you develop your site. Advertising your website is going to be your principal means of advertising in many cases, but you also may want to have business cards or brochures. If you're in a service business providing, let's say, a lawn service or a cleaning service, you may have drop tags that you can provide as you go through a neighborhood and tell people about your services and where they can get in touch with you. There are other tax-deductible expenses that are not cash expenses for your home-based business, and if you join us in some of our courses, we'll cover some of that information and help you understand the accounting for business and whether you're making a profit or not. When you're pricing your product, there's three areas that you need to think about. First of all is the direct cost, and these are the expenses directly related to the product or service being sold. If you buy a case of product from a wholesaler and you sell it by the item, while you know what your cost per item is, and you're going to mark it up to cover your overhead and to provide a profit. But that's called a direct cost, and it is something that you'll have to cover, of course, and you need to be aware of what those prices are and what your costs are. Indirect costs are those monthly operating expenses. They're the expenses that you're going to have regardless of how much you sell, and you need to be able to cover that in your pricing. Now, a lot will depend on the volume you do, because you obviously can't cover all your monthly expenses within the pricing of a single product. You need to spread it out over a certain volume of product that you have. And then you need to make a profit. Making a profit is really the fundamental or basis of business. It's the essence of business, and it's your income, really. You don't get a salary from the little business you're starting, the home-based business you're starting. You get profits, and that's what you're looking for. It's the money that you're going to look to improve your life, to build your assets, to build the value of your business, and to reinvest in your business. And you have to get a good return for the amount of time and investment that you make. Volume of sales is really very important, because if you sell one product or a single item in a month, it's pretty hard to cover the cost of running a business based on that. But if you sell 100 of those products in a month, then you can begin to cover, spread that operating cost out over 100 products, and it begins to make sense. So you need to understand and project how much you have to sell in order to make a profit. And you need to be able to replenish the inventory you're selling. You need to replace worn out equipment, and you need to be compensated for your time and effort, and that's what profits will make. We have something called the break-even point in business, and that's when our sales exceed our operating expenses. And sometimes it doesn't happen in the first couple of months. Here's an illustration of the first 6 months of a business. Our gross revenues are the monies that come in from sales. Our cost of goods sold are those direct expenses, and they're usually a percentage of our sales. And then we list our expenses, those general office expenses, advertising, miscellaneous. And we have total expenses that we subtract from our gross income. And what we have in the first month here is no income at all. In the second month, we've had a 100% increase in sales. Our operating expenses don't really change very much from month to month. So we now begin to have a profit. And every month our profit improves as our sales volume increases. And then by the end of the 6th month, we're beginning to show a pretty reasonable profit of $3,500 a month. And hopefully that continues on and grows as your business sales grow. Big question comes up, and it's one of the primary questions that most entrepreneurs have, and that is, where am I going to get the money to do this? And I'm asked probably a couple times every week, can we get some sort of financial assistance to start our business? And very often what people are looking for are grants, money that they can be given to start a business. And the federal government does not have any grants for startup business, and nor does the state or the local government have any grants for business. There are a lot of people who believe there are grants. There are websites that will assure you that they can help you get a grant. And unfortunately, none of that is true. There just aren't any grants. There are some private grants out there, I will say that. And you can Google private grants for business, and you should be able to find some. They are normally very competitive. They're grants in the amounts of $20,000 or $30,000. A lot of people will apply for them, and very often they apply to special groups such as women who have difficulty accessing capital. But they are competitive grants, and it's not a surefire thing. Most of the time, starting a business, any business, comes from personal savings or money that you have as income from your occupation. And so it's money that you're going to have, that you're going to set aside, that you're going to have as maybe a good tax return or rebate or refund. Or maybe you just, come into some extra money someplace, and that's the money you're going to use to get your business started. And that's why home-based businesses are really very important, because it takes so much less money to start a home-based business than it does a business where you're renting property and all that sort of thing. Borrowing money is often very difficult for a lot of reasons, and there are some various lenders. Our principal partner in lending is the Small Business Assistance Corporation. They do have a small business startup loan goes up to $50,000. You would have to have reasonable credit. You would have to have collateral, and you'll have to have a business plan. You can go to their website and see all their different loan products. If you have credit challenges, perhaps your credit's not so good, they also have some loans up to about $2,500 that would help you start a business. An alternative lender is a nonprofit organization called Axion. It's online, axion.org. And they have lending programs that have much lower credit requirements. They do want to see how you're going to be able to repay that loan. Commercial banks generally do not lend to new businesses. Perhaps you can get a credit card from your bank or a credit line, and you can use that, but it's very expensive. And I would caution you that it does get very expensive. But generally, banks will not lend to new businesses. The risk is much too high. Now, there is a source on the internet. It's called crowdfunding, and you can Google it, and it's a fairly interesting place. There's websites where you can post your project, your proposed business, and set some goals of how much money you want to raise and what time frame you need to raise it in. And people will respond to it in many cases if it's exciting and if it's interesting to them. Very often you have to provide some sort of a premium that you would send to them or provide for them that would make it interesting and acceptable to them. Crowdfunding is not something that works all the time. Excuse me. Statistically, only about 40% of those projects get funded, but it's worth looking at. You need to do some research for it. A few steps that you might want to consider is, first of all, what's the name of your business? It can be most anything, but normally I like for most businesses to include some description of what they do in their name, such as Joe's Plumbing or something of that nature, just so people understand what you do. You want to check your name to see who's using it, if anybody's using it. First thing you do is just open Google and type the name in and see what comes up. It may not be something you want to be affiliated with, or maybe somebody else is using it. You need to know that. You also need to go to the Secretary of State's website. It's very easy to find, sos.ga.gov, and do a business search. You'll see a little block that says business search. And in that block, type in the name you want to use and see if anybody in the state of Georgia has ever registered that name. If they have, it'll tell you where they are and how long it's been registered. And then you also want to do a test market. It's one thing to be able to make good cookies, but will people actually pay for them? So you need to test that market and see what people will pay. If you're going to be in business, you need to have what's called a federal employer's identification number. It is your federal tax number. And it is also called an EIN. It's free, it's easy to get. You go to the Internal Revenue Service website, irs.gov, and type in the search block EIN. And you'll be asked a few questions, but go ahead and get your EIN number, print it out, and then record it in the notes in your phone or something so it's available, because you're going to need it. The reason you need it is because everybody's going to ask for it. It identifies you as a business as opposed to an individual. Once you get started, you also need some state tax numbers. There's a general business tax number that you'll use on any state business tax forms that you have to fill out. You also, if you're selling products, you're going to have to collect sales tax. And so you would get a sales and use tax number, but only get that if you are going to sell products. If you're selling service, don't get that number. I often suggest that you create a website. You'll need a domain name, and to do that, you can go to any number of sites like Google or Wix or domain.com and register your business name as a .com company. And it costs about $30 for a 2-year registration, but you would own your name then. And when you create your website, you can use your domain name for your companyname.com, which would be nice. Creating a website is relatively easy these days. There are a lot of great platforms out there. If you Google website platforms, you'll see lists of them and some side-by-side comparisons about what they cost and what they do. And certainly you want to look for one that is affordable and provides the kind of things that you want to have. If you're going to sell products, for instance, you need to have that shopping cart and the payment method and all that sort of thing. And sometimes that costs a little bit more money. You also want to open that bank account in your company name or in your name with the company name under it. Remember, a business bank account is something that is generally incurs a monthly charge from your larger banks. You may want to consider a local bank or your credit union and see what they would charge for a business account. Local banks such as Queensborough and First Chatham don't charge for business bank accounts. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Truist, they all charge something for a business bank account. So it's a way of keeping your costs down. You also need to register your business once you get started. If you're going to create a business entity, and I'm going to talk about those in a minute, you need to register with the state. If you're a business in the city or in the county or in a local city, you need to register your business with that municipality or with the county. They will charge you a tax as a business. There are really 4 basic business entity types that I mentioned. First of all, the sole proprietor is really yourself. It's working under your own name as yourself, and you have total responsibility for what you're doing. You do not have to register as a sole proprietor with the state. You do have to register as a business with the city of Savannah if this is where you're located. And you do have to register with the county if that's where you're located, but just one registration is required. The problem with being a sole proprietor is that you have total responsibility or total liability for anything that goes wrong. I always recommend the limited liability company is the best way to start. You can also look at the corporation or the S corporation, but that has a lot more paperwork to it. Next, please. Okay, sole proprietor, you can work under your Social Security number, but I don't recommend it. I recommend that you get a federal employer's identification number because you're going to file your taxes using your personal income tax return, which is your 1040, and something called a Schedule C, which is profit and loss for business. You do have that personal liability for damages to others. And if you're working under a trade name, you do have to register with the clerk of the Superior Court. A limited liability company is state chartered, and what it does is it provides you with protection from liability. If people are going to sue you or your company, all they can do is sue the company. They can't sue you personally. It's a very flexible form. You can register your company with the state. It's cost you $100 to create it, and you can do it yourself to get your articles of organization. You are the principal salesperson for your business, and you're going to begin and end with your customers. Who are they? Where are they? How do you reach your customers? What are your customer relationships? You want to build a community of customers, I always say. And how do you provide value? What kind of value are you going to provide for your customers? So always think in terms of customers when you're thinking about your sales and marketing activities. I often ask people, what are you waiting for? Are you procrastinating? Do you have your company name? Have you tested your market? You need to think about that website and social media that you're going to use. Are you got all your preparation done? And then you need to be persistent and you need to be patient. It doesn't work overnight. You have to work at it slowly to make it work. Okay. In the city of Savannah, we do require that you register your business. First of all, you have to get a location approval from the Development Services Department, and then you have to get your tax certificate from the City Revenue Department. You can do this online. Go to the city's website, type in new business registration, and all this will come up, and you'll see the forms that you can fill out, send in, and some you'll have to download and have notarized and pay a tax to the city. Of course, if you're out in the county or something, or in Pooler or in Thunderbolt, you would register with either the county of Pooler or Thunderbolt. Think about these companies, and you know the names of every one of these companies: Amazon, Apple Computer, Mary Kay Cosmetics, Ford Motor Company, Disney, Harley Davidson, Google, Hewlett Packard, Maglite, Mattel, Yankee Candle. What do they all have in common? Very simply, they started as home-based businesses. They started in somebody's garage for the most part, or in the dining room. These are individuals who started companies and built something that has become a household name. Yankee Candle was started by a 16-year-old young man making a Christmas present for his mother. They're just amazing stories. Look at them and see what they've done. It's great inspiration for you. To be or not to be, that's the question. Can you do this? And these are just my personal philosophies on things. You're the only person who can determine the outcome of your passion. If you believe in something and you want to do it, you're the only person who's going to make that happen. You also need to know who you are, know yourself, and be true unto yourself. There are some things we can do and can't do, and some things we will and won't do. Who are you? Know yourself and know what you are capable of. And then I always tell people, reach beyond what you can see, grasp that which you're told is unattainable. A lot of people are going to tell you, oh, no, you can't do that. It's too hard. It's too much work. You can't do that. It is. All you have to do is make up your mind, reach for it, see beyond what is right there in front of you, and work for it and go for it. Avoid those people who will lead you into mediocrity. And there's a lot of us, we have friends who just don't have the motivation or the inspiration or the desire to get beyond where they are. And we all have this problem. And what they do is they use our time. They waste our time, and they lead us into a mediocrity and a mediocre existence. Finally, if you wish to learn to listen. Listen to what people have to say. Listen to what's going on, and sort out that which is relevant and that which is not. One 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. You might be inspired to do something, but it's going to take a lot of work to get there. And then finally, never be afraid to fail. The only failure in life is the failure to try. If you don't try, you don't know. And if you fail, what's lost? You've tried at least. Never be afraid to fail. Okay. All right. Here's some questions that you need to discuss. What type of business will you start? What are you going to sell? Where will you sell it? How much money will you need? And where will you get the money? Answer those questions to get started. Jot them down, write it out, make a list, take some notes about what you're going to do and how you're going to get there. Okay. If you have any questions, or if you would like a book, I've written a book called Home-Based Businesses, and it has a lot of good information in it. It also lists a lot of little businesses that you can start right from your home, and talks about them a little bit. If you want that book, you have to email me. It's not CS Biothrow, it's actually C Biothrow at savannahga.gov. I'm sorry, that's a mistake on that slide. C Biothrow at savannahga.gov. And if you'll send me an email, tell me what you're trying to start. I'll send you, and that you saw this program, that you want to do a home-based business. I will send you that book. It's a PDF format, of course, and you can save it to your computer and read it, or you can download it, print it out, whatever you like. And if you have any other business questions, I'm happy to answer those. And if you have any questions at this point, I think we might have a couple of minutes for questions and answers. I'm very happy to look at that. I see some Q&A down here. I don't know if I can access that or not. How can you go from selling on Poshmark to creating a home-based business? Poshmark is one of those platforms where you post things. If you want to create a home-based business, you'll have to create your own website. I don't know how Poshmark works. If it's a little like eBay and whatnot, you just have to create your own website and begin transitioning from one to the other. Couple of chats here. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Okay, Q&A, 10 more minutes. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Biothrow, for the presentation. Looks like we don't have another one. Okay. Rachel, is there any questions on Facebook? And if you have any other questions, this is the time to post them in the Q&A. And we have a few minutes that we can answer those questions. So yeah, Rachel, are there any questions on the Facebook page?
No, we do not have any questions on the Facebook page right now.
All right, perfect. Okay, well, it doesn't like we have any others in the Q&A either. So at this point, we will adjourn. Unless, Carl, do you have any other further thoughts?
No, I just encourage everybody to take advantage of the resources we have here in the city and to get started. There's no right time or wrong time. You need to just get started. And the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step.
That's right. That's right. That's great. It's great feedback. So again, here's the information on how to get involved with Step Up Savannah. You can check us out on YouTube. This recording will be posted on YouTube. It's also streaming live right now onto Facebook. And we will share via our other streams as well. Just make sure you check out these resources so that, because we share different resources on our social media platforms. So our social media is a great resource as well. So yeah, check us out. We also are thankful for our many partners and sponsors. And so here's some of our sponsors here on the screen. And yeah, and that includes the city of Savannah as well. So thank you. And we'd like to give a special shout out to Wells Fargo and Bank of America who fund this programming. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time on Step Up Live.